Go to sleep, you know I gotta keep my eyes open. But I've been smoking, that's the reason why my eyes closed. I'm from a city where the sleepers never make it. Risk your life and they gon' take it. Have you stuck up in that time zone? But I can't help but always think about that time gone. Too many people out and lost, I'm trying to find home. I'm from a city where the sleepers never make it. Risk your life and they gon' take it. Have you stuck up in that time zone?
Hey guys, welcome to the Lace Up Podcast, where we lace up or lay down. We're on episode 18. We have a special guest for you today. I'm going to let Devin introduce him, but I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, 0% Clothing Company. There's a 0% chance that we're going to lay down. So we're going to lace up here, and Dev's going to take over, and we're going to introduce you to a guest, and we think you're going to be happy to to tune into this episode. So don't miss it.
Don't miss it. What's up, guys? I'm Devin Donovan. We got a very special guest today. We got Brandon Novak.
What's up, man? How you doing, fellas?
Thank you for coming, bud.
I appreciate the love. I always enjoy coming to Boston and the people that reside here. Right, the Boston people, from what I've experienced, are very genuine. And they're very transparent, and what you see is what you get. There's no smoking mirrors, and that's makes life easier. And they either really love you and they'll fucking ride for you, or you'll know if they don't.
But at least you know what you're getting going into it.
Exactly, right? It saves a lot of time.
There's a lot to be said for that, absolutely.
100%.
So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm even more grateful that you guys have allowed me to come in and check this deal out.
Absolutely, yes, man. Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny, man. Like I'm a huge fan of yours. Like I said,
that's why you're living in a fucking sober house.
Yeah, of course.
Tim, why don't you tell the guests, a little bit about him, for those that don't be familiar.
Yeah, I don't think he really needs an introduction, but CKY, Jackass, Viva La Bam, New York Times best-selling author, right? And a fellow addict in recovery that's really passionate about helping people, man. So if you want to, get into your story, and how things started growing up, what was Baltimore like, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's rad. My life today is a really beautiful one that I thoroughly love living in, and it's because the two things I love more than anything in this world is skateboarding and drugs and alcohol. And today, I don't really skate as much because of my age, and I don't use drugs or drink in any format, but I'm awarded a very beautiful life from that. And it's kind of like my poison has become my medicine, if you will, right? And that's a beautiful thing that only happened for me when I took the advantage and opportunity of getting sober. But born and raised in Baltimore, and in Baltimore, it holds a special place in my heart. I came from a really good family. I come from a very good family. My mother was basically a single mother who did everything within her means to raise me, my brother, and my sister. She started out at the age of 15 drawing blood for $5 a pop. She was a phlebotomist. And I would go on blood runs with her in the morning, and she'd, make $5 per vial of blood she drew, and then she would take it back to the hospital and turn it in. But she worked her way up the ladder to become a nuclear physicist, and then she was on the board of Mercy Hospital and for 53 years. My brother went to law school, and by the time he graduated law school and he passed the bar, he was blinded in student debt. He had no idea what his next move was going to be to get himself out of the position he had created for himself. And I can relate to that, right? But today he resides as an attorney working in the White House doing pensions and benefits. My father, he never held a job a day in his life. He taught me one thing, and that was if and when I went to prison, how to conduct myself. And he ran with the Hells Angels. He was one of those kind of guys. And he was around just enough to let us know that he wasn't around. And he came to his addiction. He liked to smoke crack, and his body ultimately shut down. And he's no longer with us. But I was blessed to get my first skateboard at a young age, man. At 7 years old, I was blessed with this skateboard. And I'll never forget the night that my mother put me to bed. She said, "Brandon, what would you like me to do with this skateboard?" I said, I want it in bed with me. She's like, why? And I said, because if I die, I want this board to go to heaven with me. Like, you know, legit, I believe we're all blessed with these God-given talents. I believe every one of us have one of these in us.
Oh, I definitely see it all the time. Yeah,
and you know, but I don't think a lot of us come across what that actually is, right? I may have very well been the world's best ping pong player in the world, but God might not have seen fit to put a ping pong bat on my hand.
Yeah. Well, that's questionable because we have a ping pong table downstairs.
Right? the day is young. I get that. But I got this board, and the moment that board was in my hand, I knew that I was going to be a professional skateboarder, right? Like there was no reason for a plan B, a trait, or an option. I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. In a roundabout way, skateboarding kind of raised me. My mother was working her ass off to provide for 3 kids. My father was out running amok. And there was a lot of like traumatic shit going on in my house when my father did choose to come home. So skateboarding, like I ran with like an older crew that was like positive, and they saw that I possessed kind of like a gift for it, and you know, I just would do it, and it would allow me to escape home.
Absolutely.
So that was really, and I just took advantage of it, and I did it because I loved it, and hoped to excel in it, but that wasn't my purpose or like the primary purpose of it. I just did it to like feel.
Yes.
And I always say that skateboarding did for me at a young age what drugs and alcohol did at a later age, right? Like you give me that skateboard at the age of fucking 7, you put me in a room with the world's prettiest models, I'll believe that they're not only, you know, waiting for me, but that they're dying to marry me, right? And drugs and alcohol will produce that same delusional narrative later on down the road.
Absolutely.
And I'm eating, I eat it, I breathe it, I sleep it, I dream it, and you know, at 14, I'm the first skateboarder to be endorsed by Gatorade before they started like endorsing extreme sports players. I would go to Chicago and I do this like commercial with Michael Jordan because that's where they were making. They made it at the Quake Roads building, Gatorade at the time. So they fly us to Chicago and then I'm like designing my pro model for Pal Peralta. I'm touring the world with Bucky Lasik, Tony Hawk, all these like really rad, influential idols of mine that I look up to growing up. But all throughout that time in my life, really witnessing alcoholic behaviors that my father exhibits. So I remember at a young age being like, you know what, anything and everything that I do in life, I am going to excel to prove a point while I'll never become that fucking bum.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm going to kill it. And that was like my motivation and drive to really want to do better. Because he would hurt the woman that I loved and cherished the most, which is my mother. So I'm like, all right, like this isn't how it's going to play out. And so we would like run in the middle of the night. My mother would kind of pack us up and we'd split. And then I'd come home one day from skating and he'd be like in the kitchen making dinner as if nothing happened. So like that, unbeknownst to me then, what I know now was creating a lot of like traumatic issues within myself that ultimately would be dealt with later on once I got sober. And then I remember kind of having these like expectations to live up to. The stakes were higher. I have to produce video parts. I have to go on tour because skateboarding's starting to excel. But I firmly believed that I was genetically predisposed. My father was an addict. His father was an addict. My brother and sister have no issues. My mother has no issues, but my brother and sister are by a different father.
Correct.
You know, so at a young age, my father used to, you know, take me to the strip joint. He would be in the back conducting business, and they'd sit me at this bar, and the dancing girls would like pour shots of ginger ale and Coca-Cola. I would do the shots. The girls would applaud. My father would, you know, and so it was kind of like I was.
The strippers were throwing you dollars.
Totally.
Like, let them do it.
I've been known to do a little strange with some change. I'm not above or beyond that. This hadn't kicked off yet.
Yeah, would you say in one of your interviews, money, power, prestige, and pussy? You know what I mean? It's like,
every time, man. That always diverts me from my pride. Right? My sponsor said to me one time, he said, you know, Novak, you're like an accessories whore. And I'm like, I am. Right? I like, which I think most people do, shiny things, bright lights, pretty women. and money, property, prestige, pussy, big words, sophisticated, intelligent, articulate things to kind of get me off my balance.
Yeah, anything to.
Yeah, I'm easily swayed.
Yeah.
But so I think paired with that upbringing, this genetic predisposition, it was just kind of waiting for the perfect storm to take place. And it came by way of me just kind of wanting to escape reality a little bit more and a little bit faster than by way of a skateboard.
Of course.
So I started by stealing my dad's herb. He sold a lot of weed, and then he sold a lot of meth and coke, and then I got a little bit of coke. And he was always heavily prescribed to pharmaceuticals. So I would always steal Valiums from him. And then him and I, we went through every kind of layered relationship a father-son could have in a sick way. Right? Like the father-son component, then we hated each other, then we were business partners, and then we sold drugs for each other. Yeah. And there were like some women that kind of bounced around. It was just kind of got really polluted.
No, it's nice to hear you say that, because like I always, my mother, father are addicts too, and my dad died from this disease, and like, I always, I like when you talk about the genetic predisposition. You know what I mean? Like, is it, they always say like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And I think like environment and trauma like plays a big part in that.
Huge part, I'd say.
Yeah.
And even if I figured it out, what the fuck's it matter now? You know what I mean? It's like, here we are. But looking back, because what I've learned throughout life, at least mine, is that it's live forward and learn backwards.
Right.
So I've, now after having a spiritual experience and a relationship with a higher power as a result of consistently staying sober for an extended period of time, actually in like 20 days, I'll have 10 years, God willing. It's really easy for me to look back, even pre-sobriety, to recognize the synchronicity in every one of little life events that have led me right here, right now, legit, that proved to me my God's been doing for me so much bigger and so much broader than my feeble fucking mind could ever conceive of.
Yeah, I think that it speaks volumes that, when you're going through it, the old cliches and stuff, you may not see it, right? It's human nature. No one's, none of us are immune to it. But then in hindsight, when you look back, I think also, alcoholically or whatever, alcoholics, addicts, to me it's one and the same, we do things alcoholically, I have, my father, I remember him telling me that as a teenager, as he has a few beers in him, that's when he would be able to get vulnerable,
Sure.
And he would say, you got to be careful, you're my blood, and you have an addicted personality, and at the time, I didn't know what he was talking about, but I certainly, I guess I had to do my own research, but when you go through it, I think that it gives us some relief, to even know, okay, well, why was this happening and what happened there? And then it's another level of, all right, what are we going to do about it now? Because I'll seek relief in anything, and even just the answers to something that, maybe I couldn't really put together, put a finger on, that caused me a lot of pain back in the day, and now it's like, okay, well, this is what was happening. But like you said, now what? What do we do about it?
Well, that was my issue for so fucking long, is that, and I couldn't understand why. Because I'm a really intelligent individual, and I pride myself. I come from a thorough bloodline of accomplished people. I pride myself on being an outside the box thinker. I'm the kind of guy that if I can believe it, I can see it, not the other way around. And I couldn't understand how I would get like really beat every time I stepped in the ring with my opponent. Right, meaning addiction, alcoholism.
Right.
What the fuck?
Undefeated.
And I'm not talking like a bruised elbow and a fat lip. I'm talking like, ears fucking severed. Like teeth slowly pulled, nose fucking shut, eyes gouged, skin to life slowly. Like that's the beatings I would get. And I'm like, how? Why? And the fact of the matter is because I was ignorant to the reality of the situation. Because what I didn't know then, I know now, is that the name of my game called alcoholism, its job is to minimize and deflect the reality of the actual situation, right? And just as long as I can point it here, give it there, and show it there.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? How? I've done some pretty successful shit in life, and the truth of the matter is, it's really simple. As this whole program is, but I continue to overlook it.
We
right?
complicate it.
It's because I've never given it the time, attention, or respect it deserves in order to acquire the appropriate amount of information so I can stop the behavioral pattern and God willing, repeating the same fucking shit over and over, right? It's so simple. I just miss it. And then God saw fit to remove all the distractions, right? So at 38, walking into my 13th treatment center, I literally don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Everything I own fits into this bag that doubles as my pillow. The clothes tied on by a shoestring. There was no distractions by way of any money, any property, any prestige, and no pussy. Like no one, everyone thought it was best to love me from a far distance. I had nothing to offer no one, right? Like, no one. And everyone felt that it was best to just keep me at a distance, rightfully so. And that's when, and only when, I was able to sit with myself, by myself, and look at myself for who I really was, not who I believed I am or could be, right? And that's when shit got better, that jumping off point.
They talk about that, everything I say today, and when I think about it, in the past it was like, what I regurgitate was false, right? It was the stuff that I learned down the corner, but I could never truly believe it myself. So yet, obviously I was going to run into, problems consistently. And now what I say, it's like, they talk about humility, and the best things for me that means a lot is that when I'm able to say something that I believe in, because I would have liked you to believe that I bought what I was being sold down the corner, that bullshit and that facade. But the truth is, like, that wasn't the case. And now the things that come out of my mouth that I hear and through recovery is like humility. They talk about, it's not thinking of, being humble is not thinking of yourself less, but thinking less of yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not thinking of yourself as who you think you are, but who you truly are. And like for me, it's obviously it was the hardest thing I've ever done is have to look at yourself, but thank God I was, that I got beaten into that state of
reasonableness. Yeah.
And the funny thing is the thing that made me completely unreasonable, right, which is drugs and alcohol. It was the thing that disconnected me from reality in a way that I was so far removed. And then it was the very same thing that beat me back into reality, right? When it got so bad that no matter how much dope or coke I shot, that euphoric feeling that would allow me to kind of disconnect from my reality no longer appeared. So that moment of clarity was when I was fucking sober and high. The shit stopped working. And I came too far at that point to turn back now. I had given everything I loved to my addiction. You name it, I had given it. My family, my careers, my sexuality, my money, my passion, my dreams, your shit. I gave it all. And now I'm fucking 38 and it no longer produces that delusional, euphoric feeling. Because you shoot a fucking big speedball. Being homeless is not only like tolerable, it's now like desirable, right? Like I fucking love living under the bridge in a fucking park bench. Like
well, it's
sober
like,
up and I'm like
I know, it's like, oh, my wisdom tooth, fuck, I don't want to fucking deal with any discomfort at all. Like,
so then when I get that place where it no longer worked, I'm 38, I want to fucking kill myself, and I'm terrified to hurt myself in the process of killing myself, and I'm just in this weird purgatory state of fuck.
That's purgatory. Absolutely. Purgatory on earth,
And I think like for me this time around, like having to do like being forced to go through, 12-step work while I'm still like clawing and screaming and not sleeping, like kicking benzos, kicking methadone, like, holy fuck, dude, like I seen some shit. You know what I mean?
I tried to fuck my mother while fucking kicking Xanax and methadone one time. I was hallucinating so much. They locked me. I was feeding this fake pig that was walking around my house that I named Minson, and I'm fucking putting piles of peanuts on the ground. And
we got to talk about that pig after.
And then
you can buy them online, I think.
So then they they take me to the hospital. They don't know what the fuck's going on with me. They give me a spinal tap because I went to this rehab. It was kind of a pre-release state-funded treatment center where most of the men in there come from a lockup.
Yeah.
I go in there and I'm doing tons of dope, but what I fail to share with the doctors is that I'm also taking lots of Valiums and Xanax. I have this pharmacist who's selling me these jugs of Xanax, 1,000 at a clip. Yeah. So I'm getting them by the clip 1,000 and I'm selling them. And when I sell them, I take a handful out and I'm just fucking,
of course,
it's like candy. Yeah. So when I check myself into rehab, I fail to mention that I've also been taking, 10 to 15 to 20 Xanax a day. I'm just a dope fiend. Yeah. So they treat me for the withdrawal of heroin. And around 12 days into this stay, I believe that my neighbor who's on the bunk below is fucking my girlfriend. Now, there's no women in this treatment center. I'm starting to become delusional and have these crazy thoughts and seeing shit that's not real. And they give us each these lockers that are like metal grates. So I believe he's fucking my girlfriend. I get a hanger and I start pulling his clothes out of the lot and I start fucking destroying his shit. They kick me out because they think that I'm just fucking insane, which I am. Right. They kick me out. I'm back in my mother's house now. I'm feeding this fake pig called Minson. They don't know what to do with me. And then they take me to the hospital. Spinal tap, they realize that I'm withdrawing off of benzos, which is why I'm hallucinating. And now they've given me benzos to come off with the benzos. But they've given it to my mother. But my mother's in such fear that I'll hurt myself, which is a reality. She locks me in a room and she sleeps in a bed with me. And one night I come to and I just feel this woman in bed with me. And I start and she's like, Brandon, I'm your mother. And she runs out of the door and locks me in the fucking room. And the fucked up funny thing about that is years later I do the Howard Stern show and I'm talking about how I tried to fuck my mother on coming off Xanax on the show. And a week later, I go back to Baltimore to visit my mother in Little Italy, and me and her are having lunch, and this table next to us says, "Oh, you were just on the Stern show, and you were talking about trying to fuck your mom."
Yeah.
My mom.
It was Beetlejuice sitting across from. That's crazy.
Funny, man.
But yeah, that's
God bless your mother.
Yeah, she's the MVP in my story.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's.
So real quick before I lose my train of thought, so
we'll go in a million different directions.
The name of so Minson, right? Because I was thinking it, maybe in the future, right? Hopefully, it's not under if we're not under psychosis or whatever, that we could name it Chris P. Bacon. Have you ever seen that online?
No.
Do you get it? Chris P. Bacon?
Yeah.
That could be the pig's name instead of Minson. Right?
I named one of my cats Minson after that.
Yeah? You're a cat
guy? I don't know where the fuck it came from.
You are a cat guy, aren't you?
Yeah. My end game is to open a cat sanctuary.
No shit.
Yeah.
I believe I was a cat in my past life.
Really?
Meaning, I like to know what's going on with things without being in the mix. I'm an observer. I like to pick and choose who I give my attention to. I like to leave when I want to leave. When I'm not traveling, I eat the same thing every day. And I generally keep odd hours.
Okay.
And that's all ritualistics and behaviors of a cat.
Yeah, no shit.
So
I'd like to know my spirit animal.
Dude, when I was in this state-funded rehab, we had all these jailhouse big thorough guys, and we had to draw our spirit animals. Yeah. And they're doing fucking lions and snakes and fucking all that shit, and I draw a kitten. Yeah. Dude, we'd expect nothing less.
We got one.
Totally.
That's awesome.
I drew a fish.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to ask you that, man. Segueing into what you do now, but it's crazy to think about with Jackass and all that shit, man. You want to talk about rock star lifestyle, you know what I mean? You guys, what was that like, dude?
People are always man, didn't that hurt? Wasn't that a bitch getting fucked with? And I write a lot about it in the second book that I put out called The Streets of Baltimore, which really dives into the psychology of an alcoholic, right? And why we think and act the way we do and the shit we go through with. But with doing Jackass, the scales of justice were really easy, right? Prior to Jackass, I'm homeless, I'm in Baltimore, I'm shooting dope, I'm sleeping in shooting galleries, and I'm doing a lot of ungodly shit to come up with money on a day-to-day basis. And then Bam, which, is one of my best friends, he reaches out and because him and I we met at a really young age skateboarding. Skateboarding was our common bond. And his career began to excel, and he started to kind of become a household name. And when mine was at that point, I chose to follow the path of heroin. So I kind of went to shit. He excelled. He did the CKYs, which netted him his first $1 million, that then turned into Viva La Bams. And I credit him to really playing a large part in getting me out of... He played the part in getting me out of Baltimore. And I believe that if I didn't have that opportunity, I'd be buried in that plot that my mother bought me. My mother went and bought a plot for me because she was pretty sure that that's how my game would end, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So when I was ready, he was like, reach out to me and let me know, and I'll do everything in my power to help you. So that day, the pain came finally, and I had this like just enough willingness to reach out. And although it didn't take, it got me the fuck out of Baltimore, and it made it a little more difficult for me to destroy my life.
Yeah.
And that's how I started ending up in the scene of Pennsylvania, and I'm living with him, and he's allowing me to have cameos on Viva La Bam. And the rules were for living with him is that I couldn't do heroin and I couldn't do pills, but coke was okay; it's socially acceptable, and drinking's fine.
Yeah.
And he just didn't understand the gravity of my situation, rightfully so. Right. He hadn't kind of started having his own issues at that point yet. And so that's cool and it works, but it's not really what I'm in search of. And he makes it a point to let everyone know what my deal is, so no one can really like slip me some pills or give me some dope.
He was looking out for you.
Yeah, and he was making it very difficult for me, and kept a very close eye on me. And now I'm getting cameos in Viva La Bam, and they're doing Jackass, and Jackass is already like a set of guys. They already have the set crew. And now I'm not part of that set crew, but I have the ability to kind of get in with them. And so I was the guy that would do any stunt that they presented because it would give me screen time. With screen time, gives me a check, and with the more checks I get, more money I make, the more dope I can shoot in a roundabout way. And it makes perfect sense.
Why not?
It's a junkie's dream, right?
Right.
And that's what I did. So it was like literally any stunt that anyone fucking second guessed, or was like, I'll do it, because it was either it's fucking a payday of like a fucking nice pile of dope, which I'll do anything for.
What was the craziest stunt off the top of your head?
At the Doo-Doo Falls, I broke all my ribs and I got a concussion when I sat on the toilet of the 13-foot oververt drop-in with my pants down and just right to the flat ground.
That's crazy.
Pretending like take a shit while reading the paper.
Yeah.
And I wasn't gonna wear a helmet for that, because it's just skaters and helmet. It's just, But Knoxville, right before I did it, he's like, "Dude, you should really wear this helmet."
He was the voice of
reason. It's fucking strange when he's the voice of reason.
That's hilarious.
And
Let Wee Man do it.
and I put the helmet on and I cracked the fucking helmet. And then, insult to injury, break all the ribs, concussion, in the ambulance, and they're taking me to the hospital, right? And all of a sudden, there's a state trooper, and he's behind us, and his lights are on. And I figured it was just an escort to get us there quicker. We get to the hospital. He walks in. He said, "Are you Mr. Novak?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "We've been looking for you for almost 2 years now." And he had a fucking felony warrant for my arrest. Almost 2 years ago, not while filming Jackass or Viva La Bam, I happened to be at Bam's house. And I woke up sick one morning. And I had like this leather jacket on with all these different pockets. And I'm like rifling through the pockets, hoping something's somewhere. And I pull out a piece of paper like this. And it's a script that my dentist buddy had wrote. And it was for like 8:15s, right? Like, it's a dentist script. Yeah, you can't fucking get a script of 90 out of a dentist. And he wrote it for me, and I took it. And I'm like, oh, yes. So I go to the pharmacy, go in and I give him the piece of paper, and I think that he's in the back filling it, and all of a sudden I see him on the phone, and I hear him say on the phone, yeah, he's got a black fedora on, he's got a black leather jacket, and he got to have a black Mercedes. And with that, I just fucking walk out. Right? I figure he's calling it in. I don't ever hear a word about that again until 2 years later, filming the Jackass when they're taking me.
Wow.
They had so I'm ill as a research monkey at this point.
Add insult to injury.
And then they fucking instead of, and this is right during the filming of Jackass, and I had like other scenes that would have netted more money, which more dope. And instead, they took me and held me on bail until I could bail out, and missed the chance of like the Lamborghini tooth pull Don Vito did. That was gonna be me.
Yeah.
No
shit.
You know, like all these different. I always had like these sideline hustles going.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that one really hurt for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And were you and Steve-O like both like, you know, strongly in active addiction? Like on set? Yeah. It's great.
Steve-O was gnarly. He was a lot though. Yeah. Because like he would
different animal.
Yeah. He was and he liked whippets and blow. You know, so he was just like foaming at the mouth.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to like shoot dope and die in the corner. I didn't want to be fucked with.
I think it's great though that you guys, you know, to speak of like, you know, even for people, I know for myself, you know, I need to see like the raw truth of it, you know, because a lot of the time society, we kind of like sweep it under the rug or pretend it's not happening, you know, and then people get offended when like, you know, it's brought up. But, you know, to speak of like the dark times and stuff, or even, I know Steve had some videos out where, you know, he was going through it like really, you know, suicidal and stuff like that. And it's like, that's real shit, you know, but then to come out the other side, you know, and
he got to a place where he's so sober now. I remember for a period of time I was going to ask him to sponsor me, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I want to get that like fucking sober.
I say it all the time. Yeah.
Like,
how low do you want to get? It's like,
he's killing it, and I'm all about it. But like, you know, like some people really take it to that level where there's a lot of commitment and a lot of accountability, and God bless that. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, well, you were. I noticed in one of your interviews, because you know I've done my research and I'm a fan and stuff, but you were talking about like, you know, there's no perfect way to like do this thing. You know what I mean? Like everyone's just trying to like be, you know, perfect up here. That like, you know, it's just finding that balance, man. Like,
I say it a lot, man, and I'm a firm believer of it. And everything I talk about is not me like giving these hypotheses or educated guesses of what I believe you should do to get the fucking life you're looking for. It's just shit that I've experienced through my 22-year dance with drugs and alcohol, and what that looked like for me. Yeah. And honestly, the longer I stay sober, the less I know about anything. Right, that's the truth of the matter, because it's all the universe and God. But there's in recovery and sobriety, there's no margin for error. Yet it's impossible to do perfect.
Right.
And through things not going my way, it brings me back to the solution to everything, which is God. Because that I don't know about you guys, but when I fucking just hit the Mega Millions and I have pussy swinging from the rafters and I have more dope and coke than I can even think of shooting, I'm not looking to strengthen any kind of relationship with any fucking God, right? Like I
spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah, that's the last thing on my mind.
Fuck that.
And I don't want to. But then when things get, you know, people talk about like, you know, your life has become unmanageable, and yes, but unmanageability to me is like a Monday morning cup of tea.
Yeah, right.
I live in that world.
Yeah. I wake up unmanageable.
Yeah, you will only get my attention. Only. When the pain becomes unfucking bearable.
It's a great motivator.
When the pain is unbearable, my back's against the wall, and I have no options, nowhere to turn, no one to call, then you'll get my attention.
Right.
Absolutely.
Then. And that's when I, you know, resort to, you know, there has to be a power greater than the great I am.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No.
And then oddly enough, shit starts to get better.
Right.
Because I get the fuck out of my way. Because I'm the common denominator in every one of my problems.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're constantly reminded that, you know.
Yeah, on a daily basis. The world has a way of right-sizing me regularly. And thank God for that. I love it. Because I can fuck around, and the longer I do stay sober, the more I believe that I actually know about some shit.
Right.
And that I am to take credit for these things that I've created. Yeah. And now I become my God.
Absolutely.
And then I start, you know, going to Brandon's Anonymous.
Yeah.
And then I start sponsoring myself. And then it's, you know, then I put myself in a position where the only answer to how I feel is just one more. I've seen me do it more times than I care to remember. So I can't even fucking fool myself with the bullshit anymore.
Right.
And
when you can't lie to yourself anymore, that's a good.
Yeah, straight up. Like and you hear it all the time. I never ever ever wanted to live in this world that I'm in today. If you would have told me while I was doing my deal that one day you'll be sober and you'll be a treatment center owner and you're a motivational speaker, and I would have fucking spit in your face. I want no part of that. Yeah. Have this relationship with this higher power. But today, it's the only reason why I'm allowed to do anything is because I was simply divinely inconvenienced enough times to where I realized, like, whoa, what I do know is I don't know. I don't know. And the longer I stay sober, I don't know. And the easier things get when I accept that I really am not in charge of anything.
Yeah, I see it. I think that works for me, where it's like, I know you have to control, you have to find some type of, you have to get your life in order, and like, I feel like, society does a good job of like putting that pressure, and then it, shit rolls downhill. But, I just lost my train of thought. ADD.
In Charlestown, they smoke a lot of angel dust. Are you familiar with Charlestown at all?
That's a biker drug, man.
Really?
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, it's a big pagans thing. I shied away from. Yeah. At one point towards the end, my biker buddy, who was a sergeant of arms for the pagans, his name was Big. Big died, but he loved angel dust. He'd smoke it like cigarettes, and he'd hand it to me. And I was this close, and I'm like, dude, I don't need a new habit of something new. So I politely declined.
Yeah.
I had enough common sense not to do that, but load up a fucking speedball. We're in it to win it.
Yeah. You know what I've actually just been rewatching lately is The Wire.
Dude, I just rewatched it.
No shit.
By far. I used to cop. I was copping dope in Baltimore when they were filming The Wire.
No shit.
And that's like a spot-on show. And a lot of days I'd go to cop, and they'd make it very inconvenient for me because they'd move the shop because they were filming like that deal.
Yeah.
My claim to fame is my father was named Jerome. His father was Jerome. And they had a produce business. And way back in the day, they used to be Arabs, which are the guys that have horses and they put fruit on the back of the horses and they walk through and they scream out like watermelons, bananas, and they sell it off the back.
Now they drive Ubers.
Yeah. And bring it right to Uber Eats to your fucking door. But my grandparents they opened the first ever open air produce market in East Baltimore, where they had a stand, not the horses, and it was just you sold fruit and produce. And then it turned into a little, after my grandparents and father, my grandparents died, gave it to my father. My father did as any crackhead would do, ran it right into a fucking ground. But the place where the store used to be turned into a Chinese bodega, and they still called it Novak's. And Omar, the very last episode of The Wire, have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh, you know when he's in that store and the
little kid kills him. Yeah.
That's in Novak's produce.
No shit.
That's my people's store.
That. Yeah. That's like such a bittersweet moment,
right?
Because like,
what a fitting way though.
Yeah, and Omar's like the best character, dude. He just robs drug dealers. Like I wish fucking, you know what I mean? But yeah. Fucking great show. He died. Michael K. Williams died from an overdose. The guy that played his character, he died from it.
I remember hearing that, and I know the white kid that was Leo Fitzpatrick is his real name.
Okay.
He's Bub's friend. Remember the white junkie kid that gets beat up for robbing people?
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, and he hated playing that role because and this is back when they were originally filming it. He was telling me about this. He had a fiance who died of a heroin overdose. So, he lost his fiance to a heroin overdose, and now he's playing this white junkie kid and always, fucked with him.
Yeah, right.
No shit. So, yeah, how did you, I want to give a shout-out real quick to Matt Gannum for making this happen. Shout out to Matt. How did you meet Matt?
So, I met Matt, and Matt, and that's that's one of the many reasons why I love Boston. I love Boston people because when they ride for you, they ride for you, and they'll do it to the fucking bitter end. And Matt had worked with this organization for years, So I got sober. I'm living in a sober living house. I'm paying $165 a week rent. I'm washing dishes at a diner for $6 an hour. And humility, right? You were talking about humility. And that word applied, it was applicable to you guys, but I just never really experienced it. Until I experienced it, it changed my life forever. $165 a week, living in a sober living house, working at a diner, washing dishes for $6 an hour under the table, next to a 14-year-old kid. And I finally experienced what that humility was about. And at the time, I thought, at the very least, I should have been the president of the United States, right? not really fucking busting suds for $6 an hour. But some really important people and mentors in my life, they said, this job is only temporary. And little did I know that job was going to become the foundation of not only like my sobriety, but life as a whole. It taught me how to carry and conduct myself and how to start meaning what I say and saying what I mean. Exactly what you said a little bit ago. I never missed one day of work for that year that I worked there, because if I called out, who would like wash my portion of the dishes, and it's not fair to make Brian do that shit. I started thinking a little less about me and a little more about Brian. And this is not, I'm not nearly clever enough to create this outcome. Right. I just got the fuck out of my way and I surrounded myself with the Mac Adams, and I'm going to get you to that in a second. But I'm living in the sober living house, washing dishes, and a year into it, I didn't know what my next move was going to be. I didn't know what the end game was. My resume to that point read skateboarder, jackass, and author. But like, I didn't graduate high school. I got my GED in the penitentiary. My resume read fucking convicted felon, parole from probation from 18 to 38. Like, you know, just a nuisance to the criminal system. Yes. Multiple rehab, psych units. I was not like hireable. I was pretty fucking out there, and I'm working at this job, and I'm going to meetings, and I'm staying sober. I'm experiencing the steps, and things are changing because my behaviors are changing, which means outcomes are getting better. And I'm speaking in meetings, like I share, like they tell you to share, and then people start to see that, like, oh, he's actually staying sober, and they're starting to pay attention. But it's an anonymous program, right? So word of mouth is going, but then someone within AA said, hey, there's this candlelit vigil for loved ones who lost their loved ones. Would you like to speak at it? And I'm like, sure. And I spoke at that. And I had never spoken at anything before prior to like an AA meeting. And I don't even know if I enjoyed it, but what happened was it started to make its way around the internet. And this organization that Matt was already with reached out to me, and they said, hey, we saw that you're sober. And I'm like, yeah. And they said, would you like to come speak at our facility? And I'm like, sure. And I'm like, the next day I'm flown down there, and they put me at like the literally like the penthouse of the W in Fort Lauderdale. And in my mind, I'm like, what the I don't even know treatment world exists. Yeah. I've been in, you know, the progression of alcoholism, also the progression of treatment centers. So in the beginning, I was in nice treatment centers. At the end, I'm a $2 state funded joint. Yeah. And but I don't know anything about this Florida model, right? I'm in 28-day, one and done, all under the same roof.
Spin dries, yeah.
Totally. So they take me down. They show me in the penthouse. I'm still washing dishes at a diner, living in a sober house. They show me all the levels of care, and I'm like, are they gonna fucking ask me for a donation? Like, who do they think I am?
Like, what do they want?
Yeah, what's the
me?
angle? Yeah. What's the fucking angle? Now, prior to this, one of the big inspirations behind me believing that I could actually stay sober was that day that I went into that treatment center, May 25th, 2015. They were playing Chris Herring's video. Now, I didn't know Chris at the time, but they're playing the video. And I was like really on that animalistic level they talk about. I feelings were not something I had anymore. It had been so long since I cried. It was just kind of dehumanized. Yeah. And I walk in, and I get goosebumps now, man. And Chris's video is playing, and I don't know who Chris is, but I hear his story. And his story has that depth and weight. And I'm like, the part where he talks about his therapist throws the phone at him and says, do your family the biggest favor ever. Call them and tell them that you've died in a car crash. And I'm like, I get and at that moment, the floodgates open. I broke down in tears. I didn't even finish the documentary. I ran out. because like I could relate. Like, just best to tell your people you've died so they can just move on and be at peace. And like that was me. And I'm like, dude, I believe that I can fuck. And that was the first time I didn't believe in me, but I believed in him long enough to turn around to outweigh start believing in me.
Absolutely.
And I'm running that. Cut to a year later, they bring me down to Florida. I'm still washing dishes. And they show me all this stuff. And then the last night, which is this dinner, now I've seen the organization. I'm like, I love what they're doing. I've always wanted to do what Chris did, but I have no idea how that world even exists. It takes a team. I know that. You know, you just can't fucking get a place, a lot of shit goes into that. So at the end of the dinner, or right before the dinner that night, I said shout out to Dave Golaski. He was the guy that was kind of showing me around, and he was the one that reached out and brought me into this world. And I said, I'd love to do what Chris does. I'd love to speak, but I don't know how to set up that. Where to even start? And he said, well, speak to the owner. Because the owner was coming to the dinner that night. The owner comes. I said, look, the only dumb question is the one not asked. I'd like to do what Chris does for his organization, for you. And the owner said, well, we didn't fly you here for nothing. So they had already had this kind of drawn up in a map. I accept. I go back. I resign from the dishwashing job, and Rob was the owner. He said, "You're gonna regret this." And how funny of him to say that to me. And it's not because like he wanted me out of his business. He didn't want me to leave because I was an asset to his organization. Right. That's not the way I rolled before. Right? People, you're like, get the fuck out. Yeah, right. Like this business wanted to keep me because I was a good employee.
You were reliable.
Yeah, all this shit I wasn't. And now I'm with this new organization, and they're going to get me on a call this Monday. Monday, 10 a.m., I get on a call. The guy says, here's two gentlemen that are going to teach you everything you need to know within this treatment industry space. The first guy speaks, his name's Tim Ryan, an insane fucking old man out of Chicago. Love him to death. That motherfucker taught me everything not to do. Right. And the second person that spoke was Matt Gannum. Okay. And Matt Gannum has been, and they're both, I love them both to death, but Matt, after the phone call, I personally called Matt and I said, Matt, the other guy's great, but if it's okay with you, I'll be calling you regularly because you're a little more level-headed, down to earth. Yeah. And since then, Matt literally took me under his wing. He's taught me everything that I know, and he saw in me shit I didn't see in myself. He rooted for me when I wasn't rooting for myself.
It's just foreign to us.
And usually if it's like that, it's because it's like, it's what am I getting out of this? Right. What, it's very
transactional.
Yeah, it's transactional.
Right. Yeah, what can you do for me?
Totally. And Matt wasn't that.
Right.
And then Matt has continued to show up. He inspired me to get my first sober living house. He inspired me to like go into these meetings and negotiate for better pay or whatever it looked like. And he wanted nothing out of that. Yeah. And that meant so much to me. And then it came my time to where Matt had moved on from that organization and created Aftermath. And then I got to a place where I had acquired enough information and knowledge and made plenty of connections and knew that it was my time to spread my wings as well. And I shared that with Matt, and Matt said, well, I'd love to do something with you. And thank God.
Redemption, right?
We created Redemption Addiction Treatment Center in Wilmington, Delaware. And it's been the best thing that has ever happened to me. Because now, I don't play well with others. I don't like the word no. I believe failure is not an option.
Defiant by nature.
Yeah, and I don't want to go to a treatment center owner and say, hey, can we help this guy? And them say, no, we've hit our quota first. Like, no one can fucking tell me no. Well, Matt can, but, but he's as understanding as I am. And like, it's what I love. I don't answer the phones anymore. Yeah. I run group every morning at 9 a.m.
You gotta put a stop to that because Devin was calling.
I get fucking weirdos like him calling and not even saying anything.
Yeah, I called you like
breathing all heavy and shit.
Yeah. I'm
like,
get a restraining order.
Hey, I'm like, dude, there's no way this is this fucking guy's number. I call, they're like, hello, this is Brandon. I'm like, Click. Fucking see you later, dude. Didn't stay
So thanks to like Devin and a million other Devins, I got really tired of answering that fucking phone. No, but I love it. But then I got burnt out with that too because then it was just like there was no heartbeat to it.
Right.
So now I love speaking. I love connecting. I take people's energy. I'm an empath, and so now I run group every morning at 9 a.m. I'm as accessible as this water in my hand.
You still run groups and stuff?
That's all I do. Every day I run the 9 a.m. group every morning. I come in, I set the tempo for the day. I can tell you about every one of the clients that are in my facility out of the 83, what's keeping them there, what their triggers are to make them want to leave. Yeah. Today we have redemption in Wilmington, Delaware, and by June, maybe July, we'll have redemption of New Jersey.
Awesome.
We gotta get a redemption Massachusetts or Boston, right?
Well, that's the problem. It will only, I think, be as, I don't want to say only, but a big portion of why it's so successful is because I'm there and I'm hands-on and I work with everybody. So it has to be at a place where I can be at both of them in the same day, right? So the Jersey one is right over the bridge from Delaware, but we'll still utilize all the same housing, which we now have 7 sober living houses in Wilmington, Delaware, with 70 beds for men and women.
Now, is it set up similar with like the PHP, IOP, or how does that work?
Similar to what?
Like here in Mass, like there's like partial hospitalization.
Yeah. So we have PHP, IOP. It's exactly aftermath of Mass. Is redemption of Delaware and New Jersey. Okay. It's doppelganger, and that's the thing. As I was blessed with someone who had already kind of done it and had the policies and procedures and set me up for success. Yeah. So it really knocked out half of the work that I was up, or that most would be up against.
Yeah. Well,
and that guy backs me. He believes me, and he pushes me.
Yes.
And his story has depth and weight. Matt was a fucking kid who was a dope fiend who was banned from the projects at one point. Yeah. Right? Sleeping on a fucking mattress with his best friend.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how it works too. Like you use the word empath, and I think that when we get ourselves right, I like to believe that some of the best people, especially in AA and whatnot, if they're taking care of themselves and doing the drill, and I think that shows. Like it's like they don't want nothing for there's no agenda, no motive. Right, they're not selling you, selling your dreams. They literally want you to do good, right? And that's hard to find in society in general,
Legit.
And it's like when I don't know, but that motivates me, that inspires me, right? Or to come outside of a meeting because I need to participate in my recovery. If I'm gonna go there, I've suffered enough pain where like it's like, listen, I know I've experienced it. Like I was hurt enough or broken enough that I was willing to get my hand up, and like whether I was stuttering, whether I was like making sense or not, I left there feeling okay. And then I leave and like someone comes up and like, hey, it was good to hear you. And it's like, wait, so little by slow you start building some confidence in these things that like you lacked for so long, or maybe never had.
Dude, I lacked self-esteem. That was apparent. It was evident. I knew it. I had been searching for it. I couldn't find it to save my life. Self-esteem did not exist. It did not exist. And if I could have found it on my own, I would have, and I would not belong to a 12-step fellowship. But what happened is, as any miracle takes place in my life, all unbeknownst to me, right? I end up in AA. My esteem is really low. I don't really look at you in your eyes. I don't speak with conviction. I kind of stutter a little. I hope you don't engage in what I say or ask me about it because, But my behaviors start to change, right? I start to show up early. I stay late. I start to experience the steps. I start to create a relationship with a power greater than me. Surrounding myself with good, like-minded people who genuinely want the best for me, not transactional.
Right.
And then my behaviors start to change, right? And now my behaviors are changing, and now my outcomes are changing. And all of a sudden, one day I realized that I'm actually looking at you in your eyes while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm speaking with conviction. I'm not in fear or cowering over what you might think of me.
Right, yeah.
Right? So simply
point, yes.
doing, man, it's so cool how it takes place because it all happens without me knowing. I always say, thank God, God's God, and I'm not God, because I will fuck that job up royally. So through doing esteemable acts, I then gained a sense of self-esteem.
Yes.
Right? It had to be backwards. It's just like the program. It's so fucking simple. I miss it. And it's not because we're bad people and we got here because we took the short bus to school. Quite the contrary. We get here, I get here because I'm too smart for my own fucking good.
Yes.
And then I land in a seat in Alcoholics Anonymous, in an Aftermath, in a Redemption, in a Rockland, in any kind of program that has the ability to save my life, and I outthink myself right out of it.
Yep.
Right? So I had to be dumbed into recovery.
Yeah, right. Yeah, give it to me in layman terms.
My sponsor always says that to me. Like, this program works for people that are dumb. Like, the more I learn, like loopholes and all this shit, like, I'm gonna, you know what I mean?
Manipulate the situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna manipulate.
Once I get uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the sponsor just so the halfway house gives me the okay. Like, it's like, are you checking the boxes because you want to, or because you're being forced to?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy to think like that connection you made with Matt when you like didn't know where your life was headed.
I'll never forget it. I was in the back. I was like in a sober house just like this, in the back where we could smoke outside. And I had no idea the trajectory of my life was about to go on. I had none. I had to go use a fax machine at this place called Proact where they allow people like us to come during the day while you're out on job search to like, you know, work on your resume or read a little bit or help kind of like go over how you're going to present at a job interview. And I had to use that fax machine to fax back my contract I had signed for this organization, you know, with a pretty decent, and I'm still busting suds, man. I had no idea. And my people were right when they said this job is only temporary. And I didn't treat it as that. I treated it as if it were like everything I'd ever wanted and dreamed. Yeah. I'd show up 15 minutes early. I'd stay 15 minutes late. I'd wash those dishes with fucking enthusiasm. And I swear to God, about 4 months into it, the owner, there was two owners, the other owner, they're brothers. Rich came to me one day, and Rich said, you know, Novak, I want you to know you saved this business's life. And I said, what the fuck are you talking about, Rich? This place was financially sound before I got here, and it will be after I leave.
He's like, these plates are sparkling.
Right? I wish. He was like, he said, no. The whole back of the house, the whole kitchen knew who you were when you showed up for your first day of work. And we were all taking bets on how long you were going to last. And you fucking made 8 out of 10 of them lose. What you did and what you don't know you did is that before you got here, the morale of this kitchen was so fucking low. And you've lifted the morale, which has saved my business's life. And now these employees are happy to come to work, all because they thought you couldn't kick it. They thought you couldn't hack it. And he said to me, he said, what can I do for you? What do you want? And now it's funny. I have been washing dishes, and that's a lot of work for a little pay. And I'm talking to my coworker, Brian, the 14-year-old kid. And I said, man, there's got to be another way that I can work less and make more. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to wait tables. And he said, well, Novak, that will never happen for 3 reasons. And I said, what? Why? He said, at the time I had my hair was all long, and it was like a man bun kind of thing. He said, your hair's too long, your tattoos are atrocious, and they only allow women to be servers, which was true, the women part, and, you know, the other part's up to you. Yeah. Fuck you if you agree with them. And it was true. And Rich comes to me and said, I saved their business's life. What can he do for me? And I said, I want to become a server. And I was the first male server to ever work at Mary Ann's Diner. And he says, and I'm not even fucking trying to brag, he said, I'm the only one that ever lived up to his expectations. Since then, there has not been a guy.
Yeah, well, you set the bar kind of high.
Yeah, I know, right? I get
right?
the
You kind of fucked the rest
I
of
would
the
have
guys that
fucking
went in
blew
there.
you while taking your fucking
Mickey!
That's awesome.
Oh,
But
shit.
you know what I mean? Like, because I was grateful, because I was humbled.
Yeah.
And what's the saying? A grateful addict will never use again.
Yeah.
And I remain in that place of gratitude. Sometimes not as much as I'd like, but the beautiful thing is not as long as I used to. Because I'm no longer ignorant to the reality of my situation. I've acquired enough knowledge which means I'm to be accountable for where the fuck I'm at and how I'm thinking because I know better.
Yes.
Right? Therefore, I can't even lie to myself anymore.
Which is the blessing right there.
It really is.
My friend
Or
says
a curse if I want to get high.
Yeah,
Like, God damn it.
For real.
Fuck.
For real. Yeah, once you're like armed with the facts, it's like
try shooting a bag of dope when it's cut with NA.
My buddy says
doesn't work, man.
Yeah, belly full of AA getting high.
Totally.
My buddy says all the time, if you know the outcome and you still do it, you're not a victim, man. You're a volunteer.
Totally. You
You're
showed the
signing
fuck up for that party.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole thing is about. Once I began taking responsibility and accountability for my actions and look at the part that I played, which is all the shit the 12 steps do, right? It's a checks and inventory of balances of what does your stock look like? What's your inventory of your business? And I ran this with my group Friday before I left. And I go around and I ask each of the clients, like, what checks and balances of your business? What does your inventory look like? And they think recovery. I'm like, no, you as a human being.
Yes.
This doesn't have to be a recovery thing. You as a human being, are you running a successful business? Will your business stand the test of time? We were talking about anything. Take drugs out of it. Take out anything. And when you look at it from that perspective, you can't lie to yourself. You're fucking eating cheesesteaks all day, not exercising, not reading, not going out getting sunlight, whatever it is.
No, of course.
Jerking off 1,000,000 times a day, fucking gambling your life away.
Yeah.
Fucking prostitute. Like, if you're not taking an honest assessment and inventory of your business, meaning me as a whole, then no business will be successful ever. Ever. You have to.
And that's something to be said, I think, about, the program AA, the 12 steps. If you think about it, what other person, a label that they give us, alcoholics, addicts, or whatever, and like we may be like shunned by society or like the drug, we don't need anyone to beat us up more than we beat up ourselves.
Totally.
But if you think about it, what other people, when they come, when their life is in shambles or it's unmanageable, are told that or are forced to see that, whether you want to look at it or not, So it's not.
I'm big into the daily reflection every morning. It helps center me for the day. I send it out to people and whatnot, and I see you always put it up on Instagram too. Well, it's a different reading, but it's the same idea. And one of them was like exploring new.
So
recently,
I do that every morning, and then I run my group on that.
Okay.
So if you read that, then I go after I post it. I then go downstairs and then run a group. Well, I'll kind of tie it all into that, and then I end the group by reading that.
Okay, gotcha. And it's like one of them recently was like exploring new things, right? Mm-hmm. Because for so long we were just like homeless IV heroin addicts or whatever, fucking locked up, whatever it was, and like we didn't know what we liked to do. We didn't know what we liked to fucking
clue.
Well, we had no inventory. Like it was like, what the fuck?
No.
So.
And that's what sobriety is to me in a nutshell is choices and options. That's what sobriety does for me. It allows me to have choices and options. Yes. Because when I'm not sober, I don't get to do things. I have to do them. Right? And there's no saying what it will be that I have to do on that day to day. But I promise you, I won't really want to do any of it. But
you're right.
It's just it's how it goes.
Yeah.
I lose the luxury of having a say so in my life once I start drinking and drugging.
Absolutely.
I have that choice to pick that one up, but after that, we're off.
Game over.
We're off.
100%.
And we'll see how it goes. And we'll figure it out when we get there.
That's calling the shots. Yeah, fucking.
And that's cool though, because the longer that I know that, it's easier for me to like just refrain from doing that, repeating those behaviors.
Yeah. Oh, shit. So do you still talk to Steve-O in Knoxville? Like
Steve-O more. We've all kind of become so busy in our own right. It's tough, but Steve-O more. Yeah. For sure.
Is he doing a podcast or what's he?
Well, he is.
Yeah.
He's done one for a while.
Nice. Yeah, man. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you do to like? What's part of your daily routine as far as like keeping yourself like immersed in recovery, like all these years later? Because like for me, like it's always been hard for me to stay disciplined and stay consistent and like always reach that next level like responsibility. Because I get like a year or two and like think I arrived and like I start running my own program and fall square on my face. You know what I mean?
So I never experienced relief from alcoholism. The most I ever put together was 30 days after completing a treatment center, and I was angry every one of those days. I didn't want to shoot dope or coke, but I wanted to drink wine. Because I didn't shake when I didn't have it. I didn't steal to get it. And that wasn't my issue. And I wasn't buying into the program, so ultimately I did what I do, and I fucking picked up where I left off. So this time, once I jumped into it, I was just beaten so fucking bad that I took heed to everything they said, and I was like a sponge, and I absorbed it all. Yeah. And I got to that place where it had long stopped being fun, and the euphoria of it, A, being a good time, or B, turning out different, died a long time ago. And so they said, if you stick to the basics, you'll never have to go back to the basics. And I do that today. And I do less today than I had to do when I was 30, 60, a year in. But every morning I wake up and I instantly make my bed. That's the very first thing I do. And then I pray. I have a home group that I attend once a week. Yeah. Actually, my sponsor is Kevin, Michael Lasik. You know Kevin, he ran the Herring Foundation for a long time.
Okay, I'm familiar with the Herring
Chris's
Foundation.
boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Mass guy.
Yep.
New Hampshire.
Okay.
Him and I recently just started going over the steps again. So every Monday night, we're reading the whole book from beginning to end. Wow. And we do an hour a week. And most importantly, I have a really healthy relationship with God. And that, to me, the longer I stay sober, the more I revert and come back to and see it as everything. Yeah. In year 1, 2, 3, 4, I didn't really care or think much about it. I just did what you guys suggested. But the longer I stay sober, the more that I see that my higher power is everything. Yeah. And I don't really play a part in much of much. And that's really cool. And it's allowed me to kind of calm down and understand more than trying to be understood, and be more accepting of other people where they're at. Because I'll believe I know the best way for you to get where I believe you should be.
Yeah. Well, I think too, for anyone out there that looking for excuses or trying to figure out trying to overthink, maybe overthinking it and whatnot, and looking for loopholes, and then to see someone, I know myself, it's like to see someone at peace. Like I know just from meeting you now, because we're the same person at the end of the day, and then to see you sit here and speak, like you may be a great actor, this and that. But you can't fake that. You can't fake the peace and even to sit here and stuff, and have a conversation like this and to see it in you, like that's like to me that's what's attractive these days, where it's like, all right, how do I get there, and it's attainable.
Yeah, and that's the people that I try to really surround myself with, and that's what I let them know is that what I have and where I'm at is absolutely obtainable for you too. And the cool thing is, it costs $0.
Yeah.
$0.
It costs nothing. There was no cheat code to this. I didn't get a special pill from a cool kid at the fucking coolest house on the block. Like I was just in so much pain that I was willing to do whatever you suggested. Yeah. And for the first time in my life, I walked into treatment with absolutely no plan. And that lack of plan has produced the best of plans.
Yes.
But I literally had to walk into it and remove anything I thought that I knew about what you guys taught with recovery.
Yeah, because I want to be in this area, at this house, around this girl, with this job, and the food sucks, and it's just all that nonsense.
That was the big game changer for me when I was suffering enough where I didn't have to do it anymore. It's like, thank fucking God. It's exhausting, because I'll pay for pain, it's like that's what you're doing, and paying for pain. It's like, wait, I don't have to do this no more. Let me just conform, That was the big thing, trying to do it on my own. But
Brandon, are you big into ice baths and stuff? I've seen
I do all the time.
What's that like? I want to get into it, but
it's tough.
right now,
It
you
sucks.
want to get into it?
No,
I know.
We have a
He
jacuzzi
got
in
into
there.
it. He got into that. Like, holy shit, you got the first one out.
No, our roommates.
About to get weird. I like
You got the basketball fucking comes off the bench. Hey!
Dude,
I love that. I love ice baths. I hate getting in them, but the after effect is amazing.
No shit.
And I'm a big fan of them.
Hell yeah.
Big fan.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like shock you.
I'm a fan. Health and wellness, man. The longer I stay sober and the older I get, the more I realize, my body is my temple and I should treat it as such. I work out 4 to 5 days a week. Yeah. I eat like a healthy child. I try to, my food I try to make have a life, right? Like I try to, if it doesn't eat within 7 days, it goes bad. As much processed food I can get out of the equation is good. Yeah. So, but yeah, I live a pretty simplistic fucking.
Simple is better, man.
I'm a big fan of simplicity.
Absolutely.
I'm about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And I'd rather do it right the first time than wrong a fucking million times. To revert back to the. It's just like sobriety. There's the last thing I tried was the first thing that worked, which is what everyone suggested from day one.
Right. And like you said about it not being fun, like once you come to the acceptance of that, I'll speak for myself. It's like for so long I fought that, right? Because it's scary, right? What do you mean? Like I need that relief. I need, not only do I need it, I deserve it, because
for sure.
Don't you know what I've been through?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I feel entitled to it, and
I'm a victim.
Once that's when even with the podcast, one thing with the name and stuff, Lace Up, it's like, we try to convey the message. Like it's like everyone goes through adversity, but what are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To us, it's like the victim mentality doesn't work, So we could certainly go down that rabbit hole. But
yeah, we try to keep it positive, man. Like lace up, like it could be like lacing up when you're getting ready for a fight in prison, or just like lacing up for life, man. Like, are you gonna show up, or are you gonna fucking sit in the corner?
Well, that's what recovery is, man. It's where the rubber meets the road. The boys are separated from the men.
Yeah.
You want to suit up and show up and do it.
Grab your balls. Yeah,
Well,
let's go.
and that's kind of life as a whole.
100%.
When I was willing to address these issues and actually accept it for what it is, then I stood a chance at overcoming it, of course. But I had to stop blaming you and you for my outcome. Just rearranging the functions.
Absolutely. Last thing, it's been dope having an authentic, organic.
Yeah, I get like, but this shit gets me off, man. I
know.
can talk this for hours.
Yeah. It's I know.
Well, there's something to be said about the truth. I say you can't fuck it up. You can't screw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it flows.
Like off script, just
why I don't have
chopping it up with
right.
Like
there's a reason why we're
people.
not sitting here with knots in our stomach and stuff, because it just
it makes sense.
Truth,
You spot it, you got it.
Yes, 100%. I guess my last question would be like, what do you suggest someone with like a day clean, or someone that's still caught up in the grips of addiction? Like, I think hearing this, like, just that sparked that little bit of hope to, go get help and try a new way.
I think for all areas in life, especially early in sobriety and the people who are struggling, it's really fucking simple. Just think less and do more. Right? Think less and do more. Because this thing will talk me out of any good decision I'm ever about to make.
Absolutely.
Because it lies to me in my own voice, and it always makes me believe the unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Right? So I still remind myself that on a daily basis. Just think less and do more.
Absolutely.
And I like how you said, I want to touch on one more thing that, naturally we're not gonna, if you're the throes of addiction or whatnot, and it has you by the throat, no one's gonna feel good about that or whatnot, or believe in themselves, right? But I promise you, I say it all the time, and I wouldn't have stuck around for the past 7 years. Thank God I was introduced to it. Thank God I suffered enough to get here, and then learned about not just the sobriety, right, but the whole thing about recovery, right? Like how well do you want to get, and people know that they don't have to suffer, and that you are worth it, whether you believe it or not. Like I say, like give yourself a little grace and surround yourself with the right people, and what do you got to lose, And now people believe in you, and you can stop believing in yourself, and like lo and behold, you start creating a true identity for yourself, and then I don't know, that's been my experience.
As Rock and Recovery says, man, the opposite of addiction is connection. Finding your tribe, and finding new things to reinvent yourself and have fun with the process. It's a beautiful thing, man. Life keeps getting better. If you were to tell me a couple months ago I'd have Brandon Novak on a podcast, I'd say you're out of your fucking mind. So
if you would have told me that when you were calling and breathing heavy into my phone, that one day I'd be sitting in your living room / sober living house, I'd be like, you're fucking high. So we have a few things in common here.
Dude, I was probably teeking my Ativan at the time.
Just showed up. Right.
Yeah.
All right, turn around. He's undercover right now. He's wearing a wire. Got him.
Speak a little louder, please.
That's fucking
great.
awesome.
Buddy, thank you.
I love you, boys.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, brother.
This is amazing.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, we gotta have Brandon sign the
yeah, we have
links up.
every guest sign a thing.
Oh, sick, man. I saw this. This is fucking sick. Hell yeah, man. Who made this?
Walmart.
Yeah, that's all right.
But up. I'm just checking out.
Yeah, anywhere you want. Somewhere fucking big. You're our biggest guest, dude. Let's fucking go.
Don't do that to me.
I know.
Start thinking I am something.
You're our first dishwasher, I'll tell you that.
Fucking right. That I like.
Yeah.
Guys, make sure you tune in. Lace Up Podcast. Find us on YouTube. Check out our sponsors, 0% Clothing. We got Brandon Novak. It's been a pleasure, hearing your story and getting to know you a little bit and catching up. And Dev, you got any last words?
Yeah, it's been a dope episode, man. Tune in, check it out. Thank you, Brandon.
God bless everybody. Thank you so much for your time.
Peace.
Bing, bing.